Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Please do like and subscribe. I know I keep asking this, but it really helps. And hey, your comments. I like your comments. Do give me comments. Insults, alright. Some people, like Larry from Rotherham, calls me singing crapahola, whatever it is. Anyway, I believe that your comments really help, and you like and subscribe. I'm going to talk today about an article in the Daily Telegraph today. Daily Telegraph. They must be reading and watching my column, because it's virtually word for word exactly what I've been saying here about how prison governors are beside themselves with despair because they have no control over the staff that they are sent to their prisons, so they don't actually control the recruitment. And recruitment is today done online. Read the Daily Telegraph today. There's a big article in there about the prisons, and last year, it makes a point here that last year 827, I believe it was, prison officers dismissed from the service. 827 dismissed from the service for misconduct in public office. The governors are saying, what can we do if we're sent a 19-year-old girl to put on the landings in a male prison? How do we justify that? I mean, they can see that there's been no health and safety checks on this. There's been absolutely no risk assessment. Now, there has to be risk assessment. This is the health and safety policy, and I can see that in the government-run prisons by the prison service, it's very difficult for the staff to actually make that point that it is outside the employment law. But, and this is a big but, and it should be something that the Prison Officers Association need to get a bloody grip of. Yeah? The private institutions that run the prisons like G4S, Serco, all the rest of it, they are not immune under the Crown by Crown immunity. You see, in the prison service, because you're working directly for the Crown, they are anything that they do in there, it enjoys what's known as Crown immunity. So you cannot directly, as a member of their staff, proceed against them. Although the Prison Officers Association should be able to say, we don't agree with this, we consider this to be a completely unsafe practice, putting 19-year-old girls onto the landing with a big hat and a set of keys, and it isn't safe. And if you read the article in the Telegraph today, they make the points, exactly the points that I've been making here for the last 2 years, that you cannot expect the prisons to function using what I term as the HOSTESS system, because it simply does not work. They have recognised, read it. Apparently the Prison Officers Association are awakening to the fact that the inmates in the prison, the adult male alpha males in these prisons, regular criminally orientated individuals who enjoy a life of crime, that's how they live. They're sophisticated criminals, and they will corrupt anybody that they can corrupt. If they attempt to corrupt me, which numerous did, usually always they failed, but occasionally I managed to deal with them in a much more difficult manner than they possibly expected. But there were members of staff that did allow themselves to be manipulated. And we're talking about senior principal officers and chief officers. The chief officer at Strangeways Prison was actually bringing in, this is God's honest truth, he was bringing in pork pies and feeding Mad Frankie Fraser, who was on A2 landing when I was there. And he was allowing Mad Frankie Fraser free rein. He gave instructions, don't lock him up, let him out, he's all right, it's only our Frankie. As soon as I saw him wandering around the landings at lunchtime, I actually said to him, Fraser, get into your cell. And he said, he tried to argue with me, saying, no, I've got the permission of the chief officer. I said, I'm running this landing, not the chief officer. Now get in your cell. And I went to see the chief officer and told him what Fraser had said. Oh, well, he said, it's only Frankie, you know. He said, he's all right. I said, he's not all right. He's a very dangerous man. And when I'm on the landings, he stays behind his door. And the chief officer couldn't say anything about that, although he didn't look very best pleased. Another landing I went on, there was a 35-year-old infamous multi-millionaire gangster drug dealer from Liverpool on the landings on the YP wing, that's the Young Offenders Unit, when the prison service actually had rules, that is, under the 1953 Prison Act, and it was disbarred from any adult male prisoner being associated with or located on young offenders units, that's with inmates under the age of 21. But here we had a 35-year-old adult male prisoner serving something like 5 years for drug offences because he was a drug dealer, and he was on the landing as the red band cleaner. And as soon as I saw him, I recognised the man. I said, you, pack your bags, you're moving. No, he said, I'm appointed as the red band cleaner. He said, don't you know that, boss? I said, don't care what you say, get your gear, you are moving. And if you don't do it immediately, I'll get some of my assistants to pick you up and take you down the block, and you can argue with the governor. I said, but you're moving immediately. So he started to pack his gear. And next thing, the principal officer came out of his office and started shouting at me, what do you think you're doing, Mr. Sutton? I've appointed that man. I said, yeah, but you were in breach of the 1953 Prison Act. I said, and I'm moving him. I said, and you can say what you want. I said, and in fact, you'll get your opportunity because I am putting a written report into the governor. I said, so I'm going to name you as the man that appointed him. So let's see what happens then, eh? Never heard nothing more about that. And I did put a report in, but it might as well have got filed in the bin because nothing happened. But listen, with the HOSTESS system, the whole prison service is panicking, and believe me, they are panicking. The Prison Officers Association in today's Daily Telegraph absolutely admits that it's out of control. The governors are aware that they have no longer control over the recruitment of staff. It's not even done face-to-face. It's done online. This is the kind of nonsense that we've been led to by, I don't know, donkeys leading lions. That's basically it, isn't it? It's that time of day, folks. Grab your goats, run for the hills. I'm not going to sing today, but I want to recite a poem. This is a poem that I've loved this poem. It's a little by a man called Marriott Edgar. It's more of a monologue than a poem, I would say, but very often it's read at parties. But I'm going to read it now. I'm going to recite it anyway, mainly from memory. This is Marriott Edgar, Albert and the Lion. There's a famous seaside. I'll read it in a Lancashire accent, I'll put it on a little bit, I do speak with a northern accent, but it's not particularly pronounced, so I will accentuate that now. Are you sitting comfortably? Good. Hey, and don't forget the comments and the likes also and all that. Yeah, ready? There's Albert and the Lion by Marriott Edgar. There's a famous seaside place called Blackpool that's noted for fresh air and fun. And Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom went there with young Albert their son. A grand little lad were young Albert, all dressed in his best, quite a swell. He'd a stick with a horse's hair handle, the finest that Woolworths could sell. They didn't think much to the ocean. The waves, they was piddling and small. There were no wrecks and nobody drowned. Fact, nothing to laugh at all. So, seeking for further amusement, they paid and went into the zoo, where there were lions and tigers and camels, old ale and sandwiches too. There was one great big lion called Wallace. His nose was all covered in scars. He lay in a somnolent posture, with the side of his face on the bars. Now, Albert had heard about lions, how they was ferocious and wild. To see Wallace lying so peaceful, well, it didn't seem right to the child. So straightway the brave little fella, not showing a morsel of fear, took his stick with the horse's hair handle and pushed it in Wallace's ear. You could see that the lion didn't like it, for, giving a kind of a roll, he pulled Albert inside the cage with him and swallowed the little lad whole. Then Pa, who had seen the occurrence and didn't know what to do next, said, "Mother, your lion's there, Albert." And Mother said, "I am vexed." Then Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom, quite rightly when all's said and done, complained to the animal keeper that the lion had eaten their son. The keeper was quite nice about it. He said, "What a nasty mishap. Are you sure that it's your boy he's eaten?" Pa said, "Am I sure? There's his cap." The manager had to be sent for, and he came and he said, "What's to do?" Pa said, "Your lion's there, Albert, and him in his Sunday clothes too." Then Mother said, "Right's right, young fella. I think it's a shame and a sin for a lion to go and eat Albert, and after we'd paid to come in." The manager wanted no trouble. He took out his purse right away, saying, "How much to settle the matter?" Pa said, "What do you usually pay?" But Mother had turned a bit awkward when she thought where her Albert had gone. She said, "No, someone's got to be summoned." So that was decided upon. Off they went to the police station, in front of the magistrate's chap. They told him what happened to Albert, and proved it by showing his cap. The magistrate gave his opinion that no one was really to blame, and he said he hoped the Ramsbottoms would have further sons to their name. At that Mother got proper blazing, and "Thank you, sir, kindly," said she. "What, waste all our lives raising children to feed ruddy lions? Not me." That was Albert and the Lion, written by Marriott Edgar and recited by John G. Sutton. Do please like and subscribe. Lots of comments, insults too. Go for it.